Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Spotlight in Business. I'm your host, Tammy Defoe, President, Business Coach, Public Speaking Instructor for GTApreneurs. I'm very happy to have with me today Trish Bootsma, an amazing lady, travel agent, and she's going to be the guest speaker at GTApreneurs' next big virtual networking event taking place next Wednesday, May the 11th at 12 o'clock. We're going to put the information below to register, and let's learn more about Trish. Thanks for coming today, Trish. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It is so great to have you here. Excited to have you speak next week and tell everybody more about the travel situation, right? Is something people want to get out and do, but some people are still hesitant. But let's first of all learn more about you.
So I've been a customer service professional for well over 30 years and got into travel just a few years ago. But I've always loved travel. I love sun destinations. I love eco travel. I love getting away. I love seeing new things. I love history. And the only way to experience that is by traveling.
Absolutely, right. And so give us a list of some of the different places you've traveled to. I'm sure there's many, but maybe give us 5 or 6 that, you know.
Well, so recently I just came back from our travel conference. So we were on a cruise and we stopped in St. Martin and St. Thomas in the Caribbean. I've done a few Caribbean cruises. I've been all over the US. Different parts of Canada. Newfoundland is actually one of my favorite places to go in the world. And different cities in the US are great too. I mean, Savannah, Georgia is one of my favorite cities.
What do they have in Savannah? That's so great.
Savannah's there's just a lot of history in Savannah. And if you like architecture, old architecture and history, and you don't want to go far, Savannah has all of that. I just love it.
Nice. And because I mean, the thing with travel, right, is really personalized. So some places that you like to go may not be someone else's favorite, or some places that someone else might go not be your favorite. So for some places you haven't been, what are some good experiences you've heard from your clients?
So different, I guess Europe is one that's a big thing for my clients. They want to see the different cities, again, the different history, the different cultures, the different foods. If you're a foodie, you got to go to Europe. I mean, you got to go to Italy. You've got Tuscany. There is some amazing food in Europe and Germany. You know, the different foods, the beers, that sort of thing, and the history, the castles. Those are sort of things that you don't find in North America. And that's kind of cool. And if you go to South America, like Peru or in Mexico, you're going to see a lot like the Mayan ruins and that sort of thing, which is really cool. In the jungles. Or if you like, I do have clients who love the African safaris and seeing the wildlife and seeing animals in the wild where they belong is a big thing. And that really, that kind of eco travel speaks to my heart.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of zoos that trap animals in a small space. I mean, I think it's great to see the animals up close, but if they could have a way bigger range to run around, would probably be better. But ultimately, if they're in nature, that's the ideal thing. Actually, yeah, and I have a friend actually who's been to Africa before, and she did one of these safaris where there's like a certain breed of animal, and like it does its thing every year. It migrates to a certain part. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The wildebeest, there's like they have their migration. So there is a lot of different migrations that happen in Africa. And if you get there at the right time, you can see them. And then you have animals like lions and tigers. Well, not so much tigers, but lions who may try and hunt these animals while they're on their migration, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, if you like watching animals eat other animals, then maybe the chase is good. I skipped like watching all the blood and stuff, but I mean, it's part of nature, right? But right. Yeah, I love the elephants and everything, right? And you know, that would be great to see the giraffes and stuff. So Africa is a great option for people, and then Europe's a great option. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Europe is that like Europe is smaller than the whole country of Canada, so you can experience every single country with all the different sights to see and food and everything like that in like a short period of time.
Yes.
Right? It's so cool. Yeah. And
Europe is so to Canadians seems so compact, right? You can visit so many countries in such a very short period of time. The Europeans, when they come to Canada, they have no clue as to how big Canada actually is. And they think that, they're going to fly into Calgary one day and go for coffee, Toronto, and the next day. They don't understand that you just can't do that here.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even though they're close together in Europe, I mean, there's so much to do in Europe that, I mean, I don't think 1 week is going to be good for anybody. It's not going to do anyone justice, right? It is something I think that you need to go for a few weeks at least. Yeah, there's just so much to absorb. So yeah, but it's great that, you have the knowledge of these different areas of the world and different options. I was mentioned before about Thailand and that part of the world, Indonesia and stuff like that. And is the travel picking up in that region?
Travel is picking up in that region as well. So they are really good in those countries with their vaccination rates, and their COVID rates are coming down, much like ours. Again, there's parts of the world that you really need to avoid, and that's right now, obviously, Russia, the Ukraine, that's part of Eastern Europe right now because of the unrest. You do need to kind of avoid that. And some of the countries in Africa, some of the smaller countries where their vaccination levels are really quite low, you might want to avoid those countries as well right now. But for the most part, the world is open.
Okay, good. So it's time to get out there and do it, right?
It's time to get out there and travel and see the world and get back to a normal way of living again.
I know, right? To get rid of this cabin fever some people have, right? From being locked in the house for 2 years, like almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and are there any deals right now on travel that you can recommend?
Right now, there's not a lot of deals. The gas prices, as everybody knows, have gone through the roof. And because so many people have started traveling, it is, a supply and demand. Because there is such a high demand for travel, there is a low supply. So if you're thinking of travel, don't wait to the last minute. You're not going to get a last minute deal. It's right. They just aren't out there right now.
Right. So book now if you want to go this summer, this fall, winter, next year.
Absolutely. The sooner you book ahead, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean that the gas prices, it's not just for cars. That's going to transfer all the way up into the airline industry. And you know what? They don't want to pay it. They're going to pass the expense on to the customer.
And they've already started. They've already started passing that on to the customers. You're going to see even some of their smaller things like baggages. So they're going to start charging more for your checked bag. So maybe what would have been $35, they're now going to start charging $45. Again, because it goes to the amount of weight that's in the plane and how much fuel they use.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The heavier the plane, the more fuel they use. So it makes sense. People are going to have to start learning to pack light, I guess. Right. But at least the good news is that people can travel now. And tell us more about, the regulations with respect to Canadians traveling and coming back and isolation, quarantine or whatever. How is that looking right now?
Yeah. So for Canadians, it's pretty open. If you're fully vaccinated, you can get on a plane in Canada and basically fly anywhere you want to fly. If you're flying into the US, you do need to have a negative rapid antigen test. And those are pretty easy to get because everybody's gotten those free ones that the government has given out. You can go online and book time with a nurse, and it's like $20, and then you can get your test certified to go into the US. So it's much easier than it was before. If you're coming back to Canada, again, you're not required to test to come back. If you're a fully vaccinated Canadian, you can just come in. They sometimes do some random testing at the airport, so you may get stopped for that. And if you do test positive, you'll be at home, and they'll ask you to isolate at home for 5 days.
You don't have to pay for the hotel,
you don't have to pay for the hotel or anything like that. No. So if you do end up in destination and you do get COVID and you do get sick and you're in the hospital, make sure you have insurance. And I highly recommend insurance for any type of travel because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Even to the US, right? I mean, you don't want to have to pay US medical bills. We all know how high those are, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's good. It's good. It's making it easier for people to travel, right? I mean, hopefully people are, being smart about it, right? And that you still have to take care of yourself in that, right? And, self-isolate when necessary and stuff. But it is becoming easier, which is great. And yeah, but there's one interesting thing you just told me about the US. There's a little loophole you can get around if you want to go to the US. Now, what is that?
Yeah. So if you're getting on a plane, you have to test. If you're driving across the border, you don't have to test. You still have to be fully vaccinated, but you don't have to test if you're crossing the border by car. Yeah, so that's just a little loophole. I don't know why they have that. We are really, as travel agents, we are really hoping that the US is going to drop the testing requirements. At this point, we don't really feel that it's necessary anymore, but we're not the government. We don't make the rules.
Yeah. And I mean, someone might think, well, I'm going to the Caribbean. Why does it make a difference to me? Well, it does, because if you're not, if you just drive to the US, you take a plane from the US, then you can skip the test altogether. So that's kind of where the loophole comes in. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't travel if you are sick.
Exactly.
Right. So whether you need the test or not, I mean, if you're not sick, it should be negative anyways, right? If you're going to travel, whether the US or anywhere, it should be negative. So really, if it's not negative and you want to kind of go around the loophole, well, that's actually not a good thing anyways, because you don't want to be bringing across something, across the board. Right?
Exactly. And people still have to be careful. I mean, they still require masking on, in most airports. And I think it's just a good practice. Is it inconvenient? Sure. But I still think it's a good practice if you're in a large crowd to wear a mask.
Yeah. And it's not fun getting sick. I've actually known several people who have COVID right now or who've had it this last several months, and no, they're not ending up in the hospital. But let me tell you, they're really sick. They feel like garbage. They can barely talk and stuff like that. So you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth taking the risk. You know what? Some people say masks don't work. You know what? I think they do work personally. And usually I wear 2 masks, actually, not just 1 mask when I go to some places, and that right. So, but it's up to people to take their own risk. But, it's also good to consider other people, not putting them at risk, right? Because maybe they have a lower immune system, but then they want to travel because it's good for their health. And maybe they haven't seen their family in some other part of the world for, 2 years or whatever, right? And they want to see them. So it is better to at least, kind of, if you're sick, basically stay home, right? Or you might be sick, tested yourself. Right. If it's not mandatory, maybe just get the test yourself anyways, right? It's better not to, get anybody else going. And if your immune system's already down, then you're more susceptible to getting something else, even some other sickness. So yeah, it just makes sense. But anyways, the good news is that we can now travel. Things are opened up. There's no lockdown in sight, which is great. We're going to cross our fingers on that, but you have to book now.
You have to book now. Yeah. And use a travel agent, because there are so many people who used Expedia and Costco, that sort of thing, during before the pandemic, and they're still waiting for their refunds and they can't get a hold of anybody. And that's what a travel agent does. We look after you. Yeah.
Yeah. You're the ones who stay on the phone for the number of hours to get a hold of these places. Meanwhile, instead of the other person taking time off work and doing it themselves, right?
And trust me, there have been hours. I think the longest I spent on the phone was with WestJet right at the beginning. And I was literally on hold for 16 hours.
Oh my God. Wow. That's definitely the worst I've heard, but I've heard like many hours. Right. So yeah, not fun and that, right. And, I know for myself, like, it seems like, oh, it's just fast and easy to pick something online. But then, what if there is problems, right? Or what if even the hotel has problems or whatever, like who can you call, right? You can't get a hold of the people. So I'd rather have an agent, and I'm happy you're actually arranging a trip for me, which is really excellent. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm excited about that.
So, anything I need, maybe Trish, I'm not a pain in the butt though, so don't worry about that. But, it's just nice that there's someone I can ask questions to that's going to, make sure who wants to make sure that I have a good trip. Right. That's the most
important. And we're invested in your trip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, look at Trish. I'm so happy you came today. I'm looking forward to having you as our speaker next Wednesday. Everyone, you got to come out, ask Trish some more questions. She's going to give you a lot more valuable insight, information for you to use. And you have a great weekend, Trish.
Thank you. You too. Enjoy. And I hope the weather stays good for everybody.
I know, me too. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.